Welcome to this fourth episode of YeiraLab. I'm Ernesto, and we're going to be talking today about images, responsive design, and multimedia. So let's just jump into our project setup here. I have here a folder that has my YAML files and my index. And this time I'm going to be working with this folder called assets. So you see inside of this folder, I have some images. And the idea is that we're going to be working today with images, and we're going to be solving one of the typical responsive image problems that will show up when you develop content. And at the end, we're going to aim to have something like this. I'm going to show you this image. So in this image, you're seeing a more interesting type of question where you have multiple options. You remember we saw before those type of single option or multiple option and multiple selection. This is instead of having a text, you have an image, and then as a feedback, you're going to have a video depending on the response that the user gave. So we're going to see right at the end, how do we build such a question? Okay, so let's start with images. So I'm going to create right now a block element here, and I'm going to just enter img image, and I'm going to place here one of the images that I have here, parkour.jpg. And let me just fire up my browser. And this time I'm not going to be splitting my screen because I want to have my full browser width so that we can see how the images are resizing and how they display. So there it is, images and multimedia. That is my text here. And then I have my first block, which is a normal image, a parkour image. And I'm going to resize this, and you will see that the image is going to cover the whole width, and it's going to be adapting its height to maintain the same aspect ratio of the image. So this is a standard behavior of this image. I can include any type of graphic component here. And now let me explain something we're missing here. If you're coming from the HTML world, is a proper path where you can locate this image. So by default, all images in Bloom are going to be reading this asset folder. So we don't need to type each and every time assets / then the name of the file. You just put the name, and then you'll be picking that up. So this simplifies a lot of the format. So now let's see another example. In this case, we used image as a class or as a component. But most of the times, if we are going to be working with responsive images, we're probably going to be working with backgrounds. So let me just put this object here. I'm going to put a hero. It's for height. It's for, and it has a hero body. And I'm going to put a container. Usually I do that with hero components. And inside, let's see, before putting something inside of a container, just want to have an image as the background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place right at the level of the hero element, I'm going to place here an attribute. So it doesn't have a dash, it just comes as a tag img, and then I'm going to put the same image here. And we'll see what happens with this component. So scroll down, and I'll see, here is my hero object. And then what you see is that the height is adjusted to my screen. And in this case, you will notice something happening already if you put some attention. Right in the bottom of the image, you have this red object. I don't know what it is, but you see it's very clearly here, right at the bottom edge. And in this case, it doesn't appear. And this is because I'm adjusting my screen or my image to the screen height of the browser. And we'll starting to get a glimpse of these issues that are related to cropping images. So, but this is a way in which you can set up the background of the image. Another interesting thing is that if I click on, let's say, on this block, I'll see all of my image items for the context menu. And if I do the same here, I won't see them because the image is on the background. So some nicely or elegant made websites tend to use background as image so that you don't download images directly. There's always a way of getting them, but it could be it's a good practice as well for keeping your images in a way a couple of steps safer, let's say, so that people don't download them. Okay, so let's now start seeing how do we put images on. Now that we can put them on the background, why don't we put or try to work with a grid? And now let's block. Let me start another block. And what I want to do is now I'm going to use tiles, and in this case I'm going to just copy a couple of elements that I have here to save a bit of time. So you remember we saw last time the structure for tiles. We have an ancestor, and then we have a parent. And I'm going to put inside of this a tile is child. And I'm going to just for this child element, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to put this image as background. So again, this is not an object like this one in the block, but this is more like an attribute. And let's see, by now I must have 3 times this image, and nothing shows up. And this is probably because tiles depend on the content that we have inside of them. So if I don't have anything inside of this child component, I won't see anything. So let me just put the text, and we'll just say something here, placeholder text. So now that I have that element, then you see something happening here is I have a child, and it's just adjusting to the exact height of this placeholder text. So of course, if I remove this, the tile is going to disappear again. So what I'm going to do with this tile to save the space for me is adding a style attribute. And now I'm going to do a bit of CSS, height, min height, and I'm going to set this to 200 pixels. So now, once I have that, then I have the same placeholder text, and you see the tile is now has a fixed width or fixed height. And I can remove this placeholder text. It could be empty, and then I'll just keep the image here. So this is basic tile that's just expanding through the whole width. And next I can just copy this many times. So let's put it twice. I'm going to show you something now. If I just remove this part, now what do you think is going to happen? Let's see. So what happens is that this first tile has a fixed width, or fixed height, sorry, and the next tile doesn't, but it will adapt to the tile height, overall tile height of the ancestor. So you see, this is a way in which you can separate images and make it this kind of panel. And if I copy this another time, then we'll have 3 evenly distributed tiles with the image, and even 4 times, and so on. We can do this very complex stylings. And again, you see the images are just adapting to the size, and sometimes they will crop from one end or the other. So let's look at this. Maybe it's not easy to see. Let's look at it at the top image. If I reduce my screen, my width, you will see that the image is cropping from the right. So you see this wall here, it's going to disappear when I just shorten my width here. And in the case of tiles, you see that the tiles also have certain behavior that are going to just disappear. So those are things you need to be careful with. How do you do that? Probably could be better if you work with columns. These column elements are going to be stacking up vertically, and then you won't miss your tiling. But important thing here to see is that the way these images are disappearing is important, and this introduces us to this art director problem, and it goes basically this way: you are a programmer and you start developing these contents, and now someone from the management level or someone else who's more related to design then notices that your image is doing certain cropping. So every time you have an image, there's a certain area that must stay in focus. So imagine that for some reason this wall must be shown at every moment. So what you need to do is to change the way this image is cropping. So let's try to change this. And I'm going to go back to this example of the full height version here. And let's just add another attribute. And the attribute's name is position. And I'm going to change this to center and center, which means I want the focus to stay horizontally and vertically on the center. So let's see how this changes what's happening now. So you see now there's this is my top image, sorry. In my mirror image, you will see that the cropping appears now on both edges, on left and right edges. And then that means this center of the image is going to stay on side, in focus. So depending on what you want to do, you can change this differently. So in this case, left and right are important. In some other cases, top and bottom are going to be important. For instance, if you have an image of a person, you don't want to crop from the top, because probably you're going to cut off his head and it's not going to appear completely on your image. So let's see then this following example. What we want to do now is we're going to arrange now more interesting type of layout. So I'm going to start with a block, and maybe I can start with a card. I'm going to put some padding and some margin. And inside of this card, I'm going to start a column or columns element, and then column and this column, and then column again. And what I want to do with these two columns that are going to distribute evenly is on this one, I'm going to put an image. I'm going to put the same infamous parkour image. That's an attribute, that's a background attribute. And I'm just going to copy a couple of paragraphs here that I have pre-configured for the other column. So what we're doing now is we're setting up an image text panel. So you see on the left side, we're going to have an image. On the right side, we're going to have text. So let's save this and see how it looks. There it is. So you see this is my card, and then I have this text and then the image. And again, the cropping is occurring with the default value, but I want to show you something now. If I change my screen size, now what is happening with the text is the text is pulling the height up on my components. You see the image is cropping from the right, and if my text goes if I switch, then I have a certain behavior here. Now my column component, as it doesn't have any text, it virtually disappears. Just a very small row here. So I can change this behavior as well. And you see that for the height, if I extend this to the maximum width, you will also see that the edge that is disappearing is the bottom one. So it seems that this image is then centered on the top left corner. And I can change that again with my position if I just go here and put position. And let's just go the other way. I want to fix the pivot on the right and on the bottom. So let's see if this is working. So you see now I see this red element and the wall. And if I stretch my image, those stay in the picture. You see now the top is cropping, and I can focus on those things that I want to. So working with these background images and with these panels is very efficient. How do we solve this? This is something similar similar to what happened with the tiles. So what I can do is, instead of leaving this column just empty with the background, I just put an indented element here, a text. Okay, like this, probably like this. And inside of this, I'm going to put a style with a fixed style with a fixed minimum height. And now you'll see that my very tiny slab of an image now turns into a proper vertical image. And it crops the same way as before. Very good. So something important now to mention. You see now I'm not doing some interesting structures here. I have a layout that has all these, which are classes from Bulma. And then you have these attributes. So I just want to show you what happens if I just move this attributes, let's say image and position. Imagine that I have those above text, and you'll see now that your code editor is complaining. And it is complaining because on the structure of the YAML file that we're using, we need to put first those elements that have a dash, which means they're an array, and below that you need to place any attribute that you want to modify your original parent object. So if you're using any code editor, it's always a good idea to have on your context help so that you can see this highlighting, and then probably you can troubleshoot that easily. So it's important that you always produce first the structure and then change the modifiers or change the different styles. If you want to put inline styles or you want to put some attributes like image or position, then below that element. Also, if I do, let me just play around with this. If I move this below, then I'm going to have the image as a background overlay of the text. There it is. And if I move or remove an indent of those elements, I expect to have both columns with the background image. So I can play around with that. You see now, if I can change text to text white. So it's very easy now to change your backgrounds and play around with your layouts in this way. Is text? Sorry, it's not. It is. It has text white. There it is. Now the text is having slightly better contrast. So okay, let me just restore this. And let's move on and see some other examples. Okay. So we already saw in this past example is an example of text on image, but nonetheless I want to show you some extra example on that. What I want to do now is I'm going to show you a slightly different structure for a block. I'm just going to copy that here, and we're going to be we're going to be working now with a type of quote block. So you see now I have a block, that has a card inside. And then I have this text with something funny here, which is a HTML for horizontal divider, HR, which is going to give a small line, horizontal line as a divider. And then I have my columns, and I have an extra image here. And you see the columns are split in first a column of size 3, then a column size 6. And then we will have a special quote element. So let's look at this. And I'm missing an indent. It's just moving to the next page. There it is. So it's you see this block, you have an image, and then you can have a quote of General Tarkin from Star Wars. And this is the HR element that I was telling you about. So this is a format that uses the image element. But the problem that you have with this is that as soon as you squeeze your width, then the columns are going to play responsively, and then you have a very large image here. So what you can do is also use your images as normal assets. And let's play now with another case. Let's make another quote now. But in this case, we're going to be dealing with the image just as a normal image and with a source folder. So in this very similar example, in this case, I have a centered column is size 6. And then I'm doing this. I'm placing a text element. And instead of having just a paragraph here, I'm using this pipe to indicate that I want to span through multiple lines. So you see now, it's not a single line as this one, but it's multiple lines. And then I can place here arbitrary HTML. So I just picked up this HTML from Bulma, and it will provide a figure element, and it's going to be an image of a specific size, square size. Then I'm going to use a Bulma class as well, rounded, on this image element. And in this case, I'll need to put my assets folder in this format. So this is a relative format, so whatever it is installed in your Yeira platform, it's going to be picking up the folder assets, and it's going to get the General Tarkin image. And then some other text. Let's look at this. And it's going to give us a slightly better format. Indent. So this is nicer. This image is going to stay the same size regardless of the width, and it can be nice element for integrating your learning content. You have some quote, you can put it in this way. Okay. So we already saw some example. Let me just show you some quick examples for different types of media. And I'm going to just copy 4 examples. These are going to be placed on the repository. And let's just look at them, placing them here. These are different media type of files. So this is, let me just solve the indents. I'm copying that from a scratchpad that's not properly indented. Video. This is an embed element. And then we have a downloadable content. This is a kind of a PDF file. So I'll show you this in the browser. So let's just save this. Let me see if I need to remove some Spanish, perhaps. This says download this file. And then a text that's download. Okay, so right below all of my image elements, I'm going to find these different types of media. So first of all, we have this audio file. And I can click on this, and I'll play certain file. Then I have here a video coming from YouTube. In this case, I'm using some nice tricks of the YouTube API to remove some of the branding, and I can just play on this, and I'll have my video just running on my content anywhere. Then I have this embed presentation that's coming out of Prezi. So what you see is this is an iframe, and then you can insert any kind of iframes coming from external tools that provide this embed link. And then this is a file. Imagine that you have a content and you want to provide your learners with a document file. They just click on this and we'll be able to download a file. So let's just open that with Firefox, and then you'll have your document downloading here. You can open that in your same browser as a PDF viewer. And in this way, you can have all these different types of contents mixed with your elements. So let's just look at the blocks here. You see that it's a normal block. It's the same card, and then I have the same trick before that I had with the pipe here, so I can insert this template. So you provide here a source as well that goes into the asset folder, and this is where I store this MP3 file. And then I need to also add these different attributes. And in case I don't have audio enabled on my browser, I need to set a message or something like that. Then on the video part, I just use this video element. This is not Bolmat. This is a native element of Bloom, of YeiraLab. And I just put the URL of YouTube. And I'm using this modus branding. So the way I usually need to set up this is as with a YouTube URL that has an embed. So usually I need to take out the ID of the video and just paste it here. Then the embed is the same. I just pick my normal embed. Usually these different tools will have an embed option, and you pick up this HTML code and place it here. And the downloadable element is very simple. You just place a file component. This is also Bloom native. And the file will have a text that you can set up. In this case, I just added an extra subtitle. I can just add whatever I want around this file element. But inside of a file element, I have the text. And then I have an icon. In this case, I use something called File Download 1. Later on, we're going to be posting our icon definition. We don't use on Bloom general icons. We have a set of icons that are very complete. And then you can choose different names here. And then the source, you just put the PDF that's stored on your assets folder. So very good. We're now reaching half an hour discussing all these elements. But as promised, we're going to see now how do we use all these combined elements. How do we put images in our questions, and how do you put videos in our feedbacks? So we saw from the very beginning, we can do these multiple option questions, multiple option or single option or multiple selection. So I'm just going to show you an example, or just let me just copy that from here and see more or less how this is structured. We're going to be reading this and running that on the browser. So here it is. Indent. So here is this. This is a block that is going to be showing you. There's a couple of text lines here, and the question is which one of these items is used for gardening? And then the question has an ID. Later on, we're going to be talking about IDs, but every question that you have must have a unique ID within the questionnaire so that it maps to the same data store. And then if you have, let's say, this question on different platforms, they're going to be mapping to different data stores. So you can have the same question ID, on different platforms, and they are not going to be mixing up. They're going to be separated. Then I have this element. We're starting to get ahead now in questions and the formats, but you see already that there's a random element, which means sort randomly my options. I'm going to place them like this, but I want the tool to remix them every time I load them. So I can have different questions for different users. And then inside this options attribute, I have an array of values. So the value is something that you store. It could be a number or anything. And then you have something that you want to display. So the value is kind of a shortcut or kind of a descriptor. And then the display is the actual content that you want to show in the option. You can actually put a video if you want. Imagine you have different videos and you want your students to select the proper video depending on a question. So you can do that. You could even have questions inside a question. That would be kind of weird, but it's possible. Then, depending on the result, you can provide a credit. In this case, we just give a credit 0 here. We put a half credit here, and you'll see the feedback. That is, okay, this is not correct, but I'll give you half point. Probably you could use a saw for gardening as well. And then I can have on all this, I have a feedback. If I remove feedback, it's just like saying, I don't want to feedback my user. It's just like a test. I just want them to answer, and I won't signal anything with colors or give them any text or anything. But in this case, this probably is a question that you would use for not only evaluating, but also to help your users learn more. It's more like a formative question, not what is called formative instead of a summative question. I can, instead of feedback, I can do whatever I want. I can put a text element, and I can, here you see I have columns, center columns, and then inside I have a column size 4, and then I have my video with a YouTube embed format. So let's look at this. Let's go right to the bottom, and you see right here is my question. So you can see that the question is selectable, and once I have an option, let's go for this trick option. So the question was, which of these items is used for gardening? Probably is the shovel, and I'll do enviar respuesta, send response, and you see now you have this indication that your response was wrong in red, and this was the correct response. And then you have some feedback. You see there's this, are you cutting down trees in your garden? This is already formatted text. So you see I can also put bolts here and insert any kind of highlight on my text. So it could be useful for doing some emphasis. And as I say, I'll give you half a credit here. And let's see how do you cut a tree with us. So here's the video, and right below you see that our learning analytics backend is already running. So I just created this question, but it's already communicating with our backend. You remember this is already Spanish. We're going to be working on translation and on localization soon. But this says we have one response. The average grade. Probably this is wrong. You need to check that. We'll give you a histogram on the average grade, and at the same time the time of response, and then you can download a report of what happened here. So let's see if we can open that with text edit and see my report. What was the reply of this user? You see now I have a certain number of attributes here. There we are. We just finished our examples for today. So before leaving, let me just put my nice scroll banner here. If you want to try this out for your own or on your own, you can start up an account with us at yeira.training. Just send us an email to hola@yeira.training, and we'll point you to the right direction to the GitHub repository, and you'll be able to start playing in no time with our toolkits. So I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Thank you for joining in, and we'll see us in the next episode. We were going to be discussing in the next episode more of the structure of pages. Now we're going to be jumping and navigating different pages, and probably that's going to help us work with scenarios where you just branch to different parts or select different areas of your same content. Okay, thank you, and see you on the next time. Bye.